In the world that we live today, with all our responsibilities and obligations that we have to fulfill or feel that we need to fulfill, burnout is a slippery slope. Burnout is not about giving too much of yourself. It's actually about trying to give something that you do not possess. So by the end of this video, I'm going to give you a description of what burnout is, and then also 6 steps or skills that you can take home with you and implement into your life that will really help you to recover from burnout. If you truly have an intention and implement these steps within your life, you will definitely start to notice changes. Of course, burnout takes time to recover from. It's a slow process, but making little baby steps every day is going to help that much more. For healing technologies and advice for your transformation, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell if you want to be notified when I put out new content. So what does burnout look like? So burnout is when we are emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and physically completely drained. We are at our threshold. It's like running on an empty tank of gas and just running off of fumes. So a lot of people that have symptoms of burnout, they have a lot of headaches, muscle aches, and this is because they're not taking care of their body properly and they're running on overdrive. And so their body's speaking out in physical pain. And so then there's an emotional exhaustion. You cannot give any more to anyone. And even to do the smallest thing for someone else or smallest task can seem so overwhelming and draining. So someone may have experiencing cynicism and a detachment from their work, like little to no motivation and major emotional overwhelm, and experiencing a lot of anxiety, heightened anxiety during this time. Feeling really exhausted and wanting to sleep and needing sleep, but then experiencing insomnia. And because of being so exhausted and also not getting proper rest, a person can get easily triggered over anything at any time. Someone who is experiencing burnout only has time for work, and so they let go of the things that once made them happy, like hanging out with friends or doing the things they want, maybe exercising, but their energy is so low and they're at their threshold that they literally can't do those things. They can only go to work and come home, and then they literally mentally and physically collapse. They may experience depression and an inner emptiness. Poor performance, so especially at work, so making a lot of mistakes because there's this lack of motivation like I spoke about before, and then also not being able to really put attention to detail because they're so overwhelmed and so stressed and at their threshold. And then there is reduced creativity. So within this time, there is no room for those creative aspects to come out because it's too exhausting. So to prevent burnout, we must listen to our bodies. When our bodies are speaking out, they're trying to tell us something, and it's so easy just to ignore them. But then that's when the bigger problems come up and we can end up getting really sick and damaging our health. And I can tell you from my own personal journey that by not listening to my body and not listening to the stress that I was under and could totally just keep pushing myself, it did not end well. I ended up having to take off like 3 or 4 months of work. So I know that it's hard when we have high stress jobs or we have to go pay the bills, but in the long run, if you push yourself harder and harder and harder, you may have to take work off for months at a time, and some people need a year off of work. So it's better to do preventative medicine, preventative skills that you can implement into your life to prevent burnout from happening. And if you are someone that is experiencing burnout or is in the middle of this, these 6 skills will greatly help you to recover from burnout. So I've worked in mental health and addictions for many years, and now I have my own practice where I work one-on-one with my clients. I'm discussing this subject today because I have gone through my own burnout and major health issues, and a lot of it was due to me not taking proper care of myself. So we'll move into number 1, and it is self-awareness. It is so important to have self-awareness through this process because there's a reason that this is happening to you, and I might see things differently than others, but when our body is speaking out, it's trying to tell us something, that we're not living in a way that is really serving us anymore, and we can do things in a different way. So when someone goes through burnout, it can be really hard because you have your job and you have your life the way it is, and you think, but I can't live any different. Like, I have to get these things done. This is my responsibility. And it can seem like you are hitting your head up against a wall. But I promise you, when you start to look within and start to understand why this is happening, that this is really happening for a reason, because you need to move in a new direction, as hard as it is, and as much as that you don't think that that is possible because of your responsibilities, you would be surprised when you realize that your health is at risk. You start to make changes, and then life starts to change and move in a direction that is more supportive towards you. But this really takes asking the hard questions and looking within. And we'll move into number 2, which is to do with number 1. Of course, you bring number 1 into all of these aspects, so which is your self-awareness and being aware of where you are a perfectionist in your life. So usually people that experience burnout, not everyone, but they will definitely have aspects of perfectionism. So it takes asking the questions of where you are pushing yourself too hard in your life and needing to be perfect in certain areas, or putting too much pressure on yourself. And number 3, which is, can you say no? Or where in your life are you not saying no? Where are you saying yes to others but no to yourself? So recognizing if we are people pleasing, if we are pushing ourselves past our limit and putting other people's needs before our own needs. When you start to check in with yourself and really listen, if somebody asks you to do something, check in. Be like, is this serving me right now? Do I have the energy to do this? Or am I doing this out of obligation? Am I doing this to please this other person? So especially when you're burnt out, right? You got to start doing self-care and putting yourself first. It's not about not doing things for others, but if it's taking away from your well-being, then you're not serving anyone, and you're definitely not serving yourself. So check in and see if it's a yes or a no. If it says no, this isn't serving me right now, then you have to find a way to be able to say no to that person and tell them where you're at. And this will take us into number 4, which is not being able to disconnect from work when we get home. And so I was the worst for this. This was something that I had a really hard time with, because I worked with women in addictions and mental health, and I would bring their problems home with me. Of course, I would always try to disconnect, but there was always something that would come home with me. And being a sensitive person, it was hard for me to disconnect from these things. And this definitely didn't help the burnout issue within. So again, this takes self-awareness, which is number 1, of noticing your thoughts and where your mind is at after work, and how you can really disengage and leave work at work and come home and just focus on yourself and be really present with yourself. And now we'll move on to number 5, which is connect with others and let them know where you're at and ask them for help. So a lot of people struggle with asking for help. I really had a hard time getting help from others and wanting to get the job done and thinking that I had to do it all on my own. And this, again, takes that self-awareness to really look within and be like, where is this coming from? Why can't I ask for help? And just letting people around you know where you're at, and giving people the opportunity to be able to help you during this time. And then number 6, which is self-care. This involves going to sleep at the same time every single night. So it's sleep hygiene, right? So when we're really struggling with insomnia, it's important to go to sleep at the same time every night and try to go to bed a little bit earlier. And so you get your deepest sleep between 10 and 2 a.m. And so when I was going through this, I decided that I was going to be in bed by 9:30. I know it's early, but I was so exhausted. I could have been in bed by 8 o'clock anyways. And the more I was asleep by 10 o'clock and slept through, the better the sleeps I had. The later that I went to bed, if I went to bed at 11 or 12, I really didn't have good sleeps. Another part of self-care is doing the things that where we pamper ourselves. And I know that when you're going through this process, it can be really hard to want to do anything, but doing things like running yourself a hot bath with Epsom salts, going out for a walk, even if it's like a 20-minute walk at night, just out in nature and just like a slow saunter, this will calm the nerves, and being out in nature is incredibly healing. Another part of self-care is feeding ourselves properly. So it's so important to eat a balanced diet and a healthy diet. So lots of veggies and lots of omega-3 fatty acids are really important this time. So as much fish as you can eat if you do eat fish, or taking fish oil. If you're a vegetarian, you can take omega-3s in a vegetarian supplement. Food heals us. So I know that you could be so exhausted in this time, and it's so easy to just make something quick, right? Or maybe pick up fast food or pick up takeout, right? But it's really important to feed ourselves properly during this time. Whether you are trying to prevent burnout and you're noticing yourself on your way to burnout, or if you're actually going through burnout right now, what we put in our body is so important. So I'd like to hear from you guys. Is there anyone watching that is experiencing burnout right now, or has experienced burnout, or is feeling like they're moving in a direction towards that and are really looking for things to prevent this? If you can write in the description below and let me know if this is something that you're struggling with, I would love to have a conversation with you. If you're someone who's struggling with burnout, I do offer sessions that are one-on-one that really start to look around our belief systems, core belief systems of why we are moving in this direction and have a hard time maybe taking a step back and doing things in a different way. So if you'd like to connect with me, I am offering free discovery sessions, which is 30 minutes long. And you can connect with me and book a session on my website, and the link is in the description below. So now you've learned the 6 steps that are incredibly important to implement within your life if you are experiencing burnout or you want to prevent burnout. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. My name is Tess. Thank you for watching.